Cooperative and collaborative learning can bring a lot of benefits to the learning environment, but they're not everybody's favorite thing, especially in online courses, and they can add some challenges. They don't have to, though. Today, let's look at some ways to design group work and cooperative learning in your online classes. So let's discuss some things that help your group work and help your students complete group work together. First of all, having rubrics, checklists, and schedules can really help your students keep on track. And then, of course, having explicit assessment criteria, also really useful. Those things combined help students to make sure that all of them are on the same page, they all know what's expected of them, and they all know how they're going to be graded. It helps them to kind of guide each other as group members. Very important is to provide them with a timeline, and hopefully you have some intermediate steps and deadlines, especially if it's a larger project. So it's not just one deadline at the end of a large-scale project. Keep in mind that many of our students don't have much experience with large-scale project management or managing multiple people, and so we have to kind of provide them with some modeling of how that works. If you give them a timeline with intermediate steps, that way it hopefully doesn't come to pass that they get to the deadline for their project only to discover that one person hasn't been doing their part. Assigning roles to group members can be very useful, and then having a group contract. And I will be sharing a Word document from UW that has a really useful example of a group contract in the notes for this. And then peer grading keeps people on track, and I'll be talking more about peer grading in just a moment. I wanted to bring up Debbie Morrison's 5 elements needed for effective group work. So first of all, she points out the need for social presence. Having introductions in your class help. And it's recommended that you wait at least 2 weeks into the class before starting your group work so that the students in your class can get to know each other. And then making sure there's leadership, both from the instructor and a positive leader within the group, is also really important. As I said before, having a sense of purpose and clear instructions is very important. Make sure your students know why they're doing group work or why they're doing this particular project, preferably both. Giving guidelines for communication will help them to develop skills for working in a team. But not all students know already how to communicate with others effectively. And then seamless technology, what that means here is that we want to make sure students are using the best tools for what they're trying to do, but also that they're not being provided with an overwhelming number of tools. So help them to determine what would be the best tools for them depending on their project, and then make sure they have those tools. Related to Canvas, as I said before, peer grading helps keep people on track. So even in small classes, you can work in groups. And if you set up group discussion boards, make sure that you monitor them and contact students who aren't participating, just like you would for any regular discussion within your class. You also, unfortunately, want to monitor those just to make sure that students are treating each other fairly and that there are no problems arising, and have a plan for if behavior issues do arise in the group discussions. And then when you go to grade your group assignments in Canvas, what you might want to do is set up the assignment to give all students in the group the same grade, but then add a second assignment where the students rate group members on a provided rubric, and then use that to add or subtract points to group members based on the feedback you received from the other members of their group. That way, their actual involvement in the project has an impact on them specifically, not on the whole group. As a facilitator, both you and any facilitator in your groups in your class need to make sure that you can create a social and active community, and you need to demonstrate leadership by communicating effectively, putting messages about course progress out there, giving individual feedback, clearly outlining your expectations, following up with those who aren't meeting your expectations, and posting strategies for effective teamwork. You should over-communicate. Don't think that you should step back too far into the background. Make sure you're in touch with your students at all times, and both you have an idea of how they're doing and what's going on, and they have an idea of what they should be doing and what's going on. As I mentioned before, you should have a plan for dealing with any conflict that might arise, and then you should be monitoring their progress and providing feedback. There will be, as I mentioned, some additional notes in our description of this video. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thanks a lot.